For a person, Mr. Yentob, that made possibly the best Bowie portrait ever, cracked actor, would you describe yourself as a Bowie fan?
Oh, I'm definitely a Bowie fan.
I just wonder if you get tired of being outrageous, if that gets to become outrageous at all. You describe yourself as ordinary. What adjective would you use?
David Bowie.
Well, I'm reluctant to make the judgment about what category you fit into, and I'm hoping that you would. You didn't understand that. Don't feel badly, because I certainly didn't.
Hi everyone. Nice to see you all. Thank you for coming. And this is Nacho, the video wizard.
Hello everybody, thank you for coming. Thanks very much.
I'm Mark Wardel, and this is Alan Yentob. So, I think we're starting with some clips, are we?
Yeah, so we've got some clips to show you. Let's start with the first clip, which is not quite the beginning of the movie, but where the movie really gets into shape, I think.
I'm closer to the golden dawn, immersed in Crowley's uniform of imagery. I'm living in a silent film, portraying Himmler's sacred realm of dream reality. I'm frightened by the total goal, drawing to the ragged hole, and I ain't got the power anymore. No, I ain't got the power anymore.
So, Alan, I believe that The Mask was the first thing that you did for Cracked Actor, was the first?
Yes, I have to say, I've been making films since I was 18 years old. I'm not going to tell you how old I am now. I'll give you a hint. I was born in Stepney, and David Bowie was born in Brixton, and there was only weeks between us. But that opening shot of The Mask gives me the shivers now when I see it. It's the favorite shot I'd ever made, and I've made hundreds of hours of film. Basically, it all began when I got a phone call from Tony DeFries, who was the manager there, and he said to me, "Bowie's just seen a film of yours called Profile of a Monster." And it was a film about Dave Prowse. He was Darth Vader, but it was a parody. It was a kind of a satire, in fact, because he used to, when he wasn't doing Darth Vader, he'd started off showing children crossing the road. So there was this complicated film, Bowie like that. I went to Los Angeles, I met him, and he asked me if I'd make the film, and I said yes. And then I said, can I make a face mask, a life mask? Because to me, this idea of these different characters who Bowie had not just created, but had become, were then he was about to say goodbye and wave goodbye to them, and that was the plan. And he agreed to it. And it was quite an ordeal, as you can see.
It's a difficult process, isn't it? It's very claustrophobic, and a lot of people have panic attacks when they're having that done to them. I made one of Steve Strange, and actually I thought he was going to freak out, but he was fine. So obviously something to do with rock stars or pop stars, maybe, I don't know. But Bowie apparently he was completely relaxed, wasn't he?
He was, he was, as you saw throughout the film, I would be interviewing him usually in his hotel room at 3 o'clock in the morning or in the back of the limo. But he was always really honest, and of course he was struggling. When he finally, in the 1980s, I think, 87 or something, when he saw the film again, he said, "I don't know how I survived." He was going through a really difficult period when he was, I often said that he was on a diet of milk and cocaine, and that was how he was getting through it. So it was a tricky period, but also in terms of his work, his music, his language, his relationship with a young audience, all that comes out in this extraordinary sort of narrative about these characters and this life and this almost schizophrenia that he was experiencing.
It's prescient that you actually wanted to make the mask, because actually Bowie's work is kind of really about masks, isn't it? He was always donning these masks to become different characters, and that kind of is encapsulated in Cracked Actor.
Yeah, that is what the film's about. That's why I call it Cracked Actor, because he was in this transitional phase in his life. Originally, I was going to call it The Collector, because two of the things that are really important are, for all of you also would know this, curiosity and creativity. And David was always curious about the world. And change is, of course, an important thing. He was always seeing things, seeing the next step, where he would go next. And always he was experimenting. You saw the cutups sequence and his fascination with William Burroughs, with George Orwell, with so many different features and factors. I have to admit that, and I said this to Mark in his book, that I wasn't that familiar with Bowie at that stage. And of course, Pennebaker had just made the film about Ziggy Stardust in the last days, and obviously I used quite a lot of that in the film. And I was completely enthralled with it when I met it. And I think the thing I'm proud of the film is it's a story about ideas and about storytelling and about transitions. And for me, that is the important thing about the film. And this language, these words, I'm just a space cadet, he's the commander. I'm from Phoenix and I just came. There's a fly in my milk. I mean, there are endless things. And when I go to Glastonbury, I'm always shouted at by people with all these quotes when I walk along.
And that's young kids as well, isn't it?
Oh, young kids.
It's not just us old
Oh,
peasants.
no, it is. There's a new generation of young people still, really, who, I mean, for me, my favorite, and I just read you this, my favorite song, which explains to me what, at the time I was making, it was about Bowie and those people and young people, and about their aspirations. It's a god-awful small affair to the girl with the mousy hair. You probably all know the words anyway. He takes you on a journey in Life on Mars. I mean, an extraordinary journey of the imagination. I mean, if you read that song again, you can see it's an adventure. It's surreal. It's an extraordinary story. And that's what he did he came from an ordinary background, one way or another, and he discovered things and learned things, and he's trying to share those with the audience. And often he wants to remind people that the world is a strange, surreal place, and you can jump from one thing to another, but you've got to use your imagination, and you can escape a dull life. And all those kids in the film, Oh, You Pretty Things, that sequence, of course, where you see those young people and their involvement and their engagement with this incredible imagination.
Well, we are two of them who were completely fired up, especially by Bowie, but especially by Cracked Actor, and fascinated because he'd completely changed. From the Ziggy Stardust look, he'd completely moved into a new character.
Well, at the very end, of course, as he never lost those characters, but he was those characters for so long, whether it was Aladdin Sane or Ziggy or Life, those Space Oddity, Up in Space and Around. He was an adventurer. And at a certain point, I love the end of the film for me. I took this helicopter and went over the Anaheim Stadium. And the notion so David Bowie became a soul singer. And then, of course, he went to Berlin. He changed again, station to station, Low, Brian Eno. It was a kind of adventure, and I just think he never lost that curiosity, never.
So you have said, you didn't know too much about him before you were offered to make the film. So did you go on a kind of Bowie crash course, or were you learning all the while when you met him? Because now you're obviously very knowledgeable.
Well, there were no biographies written of him at that time. It was very early on. What I did is I listened to the albums and that he'd made, and I discovered him through that. And there weren't lots of books about him at that stage, No.
I think there was one paperback which was not that great, because the first books really didn't come out until the 80s.
That's right.
With I think the Gilmans were the first one with their brilliant book.
That's right.
And then an avalanche followed. I mean, if my bookcases ever collapse, I'll be killed underneath it.
Should we have another clip?
Yes, yeah.
It was my initial fascination with mime and expressing things with facial movements and body talk rather than articulating things. I mean, I'd done as much articulating as I felt was necessary with the actual songs. And if I was going to present them in more than a single dimension, I mean, if I was going to present them visually, then I wanted my body or my muscles to play an active part in the performance. It's funny that the same, very similar masks to the Kabuki stick masks were used with the English Mummers Theatre. And it's very strange that they should come up with very similar designs for faces. I don't know what the link would have been, but there must have been some link. That is kind of from the Aladdin Sane album. Aladdin Sane was a schizophrenic. That's accounted for lots of the why there were so many costume changes, because he had so many personalities that as far as I was concerned, each costume change was a different facet of personality. This is likewise another Japanese costume. These are all Japanese, and most of this stuff is Japanese. Most of my clothes are Japanese. I've always been very fond of Kabuki-style clothes. That's another Aladdin Sane thing. Aladdin Sane, I saw him as... I found a lightning bolt really represented him. This was the first Japanese costume that I got, which this was originally worn by a woodland creature, Japanese theatre. That's why it has funny little animals on it. It says in there, Yamamoto Kansai, dry cleaning only.
I mean, what's so great about Bowie also is his sense of humour.
Yeah.
And his ability to make fun of himself. There are many occasions in the film where he said, "Oh my God, I say that,
I can't half-trot him out."
That's right. And and this sense of, he was illustrative in his songs. He didn't just write songs. His performance was an illustration of the character and the person, as you can see there. So there you see the clothes for Aladdin Sane. And obviously he identified with him because he was going through the same process. Who am I? Where am I going? How can I explore the world? And there he does it with clothes. I mean, in fact, obviously the impact of Bowie and those clothes had a big impact on the way people dressed and on the fashion industry. And So that became and he had big fans in the fashion world as well.
Yes.
Obviously.
Have you got any idea, Alan, why he had those costumes with him in '74? Because they were from the previous incarnation.
Yeah, and he was trying to get rid of the Ziggy.
And he was trying to kill off the character, yet he had all the clothes with him.
I think he knew that this journey we were on together was one in which he wanted this story to be told, and he needed, and I think that's one of the reasons he probably brought that with him. He was not, as you can see, he was perfectly ready to explore Ziggy and Aladdin Sane and those characters and to say goodbye. And quite a lot of the time, a fond goodbye. You know, there was that contradiction, was, oh, Ziggy was terrible, but I love Ziggy, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, Ziggy, he let Ziggy go through a period of transition and change when then Ziggy, you know, blew it. Yeah. And with the support of David Bowie.
That makes sense, because I'd always wondered about that, but actually that makes perfect sense, because I guess, as you say, he had this chance for the film that you were making to actually explain these things, and I guess that's why he brought all that stuff with him to show, because he's kind of treating it, they're almost treated with the reverence of religious objects, aren't they, when he takes those costumes out?
They really are, and of course when if you've seen this film, when you listen to those songs, you've got all these images in your mind. You've got his words and his memories of all of that. And he hasn't lost them, but he wants to move on. And we know that as he moved away, first, Soul was just a transition. It almost made me laugh that he was there. And then, of course, he wanted to go, and it was also the places he went to.
Yeah.
I mean, Berlin had a big impact on him later on in life, you know.
Yeah, and I think that his love affair with Los Angeles was coming to an end, wasn't it, when you were...
Oh, it absolutely was. It's interesting, the crew, I think the film is beautifully shot and made, and originally there's this story, I was trying to find the right cameraman, and I found this guy who was in Los Angeles, in Malibu, called Mike Murphy, and I rang him and I said, can I come and see you? And I went up there and I rang the doorbell, and a naked man came to the door, and it was Mike Murphy, completely naked except for a hat. And I said to him, look, I'm going on this adventure with David Bowie in Los Angeles. We're going to Arizona, we'll be in Tucson. I have no idea how long it will last. I've got only a certain amount of money in the budget. I took it in cash with me. So this is the way it was in those days in the BBC. I said, who knows? And then there was this other incredible cameraman called Dave Myers, who did The Last Waltz with Martin Scorsese and other things. And so we had a great crew, you know, and they were there the whole way through.
You hadn't met these guys before?
Never met them before. I was just looking for the right people, and they were all coming from LA, and they all had to have the experience to be able to really capture this in the most interesting way.
And you captured the whole show, didn't you? It wasn't just...
We captured the whole show, and as everybody knows, people keep asking me, where's the rest of the footage? And I can't yet explain where it is. I'm not quite sure, but you have seen the transcripts.
I've seen the transcripts of everything that was shot, and there was hours and hours of stuff, so if it ever turns up, you know, our minds would be blown. Nobody seems to know what happened to it. There's all these rumours. People say they know. You've heard rumours, haven't you? What is it? What have you?
That there is a copy in existence of all the material. I don't know if it's been digitized, presumably not.
Do you know where it is?
I know somebody who claims to know where it is.
I'd love to have a conversation with you after this.
But I haven't understood if it was obtained from the BBC archive or from Main Man, who perhaps had a copy. So this story I'm not sure about.
Certainly I'd like to rediscover it and perhaps find a way to see this film on a big screen in high quality and let it go out theatrically. And I'm
with an extended version with the extra footage.
Trying to explore that at the moment. Yeah.
Cool.
Can I ask? Was there any restriction from either Main Man or the BBC, or any caveats, what you weren't allowed to show or what you were encouraged to show?
My memory is not really. There was a big hassle trying to at the Universal Amphitheatre trying to get agreement to what we could show or not show. So that dialogue went on for ages, the question about how much money would have to be paid, how much we could show.
And that was happening in the moment whilst you were
Oh
there?
yeah, it was while we were there. We're in continual dialogue.
You were up in a helicopter just before filming, and there was some last-minute hitch, weren't you? And I think Carol Bell, your assistant, was trying to get hold of you.
That's right, yeah. It was, and quite often, you know, I really hardly spoke to Tony DeFries at all. And you can see that this was a moment when Bowie didn't have a good relationship with him.
It was breaking down.
It was broken down, and you'll remember that scene basically with the ironing going on and him about waiting to go on stage, and there's DeFries and he's ignoring him. Yeah. So yes, he was, you know, he'd realized that somehow this wasn't the right relationship for him. Yeah.
Carol Bell, your assistant, told me that Bowie would agree to everything, but then Corinne Schwab would come along and veto stuff, so that made it quite difficult. She seemed to have taken more control by that point. Did you have much to do with Coco at all?
Well, I did talk to Coco, but Coco was the sort of, yes, she was the one who said, no, he can't do that. Or I would say at the end of a show, no, David's too busy or he's too tired. But with David, he never said no. And he answered, there was never a question I asked him, but he didn't answer honestly. And when he thought he wasn't being honest enough, he would also acknowledge that when he was talking. As I said, he was playful. He had a sense of humor. He wasn't full of himself in that way. He was just out on this journey, and we were going there together. Of course, I did mention this thing of, we never talked about his addiction that he had, you know, to cocaine and stuff during the time, but there's obviously that scene in the back of the car when he's sniffing and he's asking if there's is anyone following us, and then you're in that sequence again. All these sequences are connected to the songs that are on display at the time, and that's rather an amazing sequence going through Los Angeles in the car, you know.
It's very noir. Was he private with his drug taking, or was he quite open about it, sort of?
No, he was quite discreet about it, to be honest with you. But we, you know, I obviously knew he was in that condition.
Yes, yeah.
Do you want to show another clip?
We've got one of the classics next.
Looking out on the morning rain, I used to feel so uninspired. And when I knew I had to face another day, Lord, it made me feel so tired. Before the day I met you, life was so unkind. You're the key to my peace of mind. 'Cause you make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel like a natural woman. When my soul was in the lost and found.
Since you've been in America, you seem to have picked up on a lot of the idioms and themes of American music and American culture. How's that happened?
There's a fly floating around in my milk, and there's a foreign body in it, you see, and he's getting a lot of milk. It's kind of how I feel. A foreign body here, and I couldn't help but soak it up, you know. I hated it when I first came here. I couldn't see any of it. Look, a wax museum. Imagine having a bleeding wax museum out in the middle of the desert. Think it'd melt, wouldn't you?
What made all of this important to you? I mean, with your background, why were you intrigued by all of this? It filled a vast expanse of my imagination. I was always pretty imaginative. And the imagination can dry up in wherever you're living in England often. I mean, if there's nothing to keep it going, it just supplied a need in me.
America. Became a myth land for me. I think every kid goes through it eventually, but I just got onto it earlier.
These lines, there was one occasion when I was having dinner with Kate Moss and her husband at the time said, Alan, we've just been watching Cracked Actor again, and we just watch it again and again. And then Kate Moss, who I knew, just looked at me with complete alarm. You made it, because of course I wasn't pictured in the film. And then she just started quoting endless quotes from Bowie, just like everyone else. You know, she'd been captivated by this. And that opening sequence, when the film was finished, I got a phone call from Nicholas Roeg, the director, and he said to me, I've just seen your film, and I've just seen Bowie in the back of that car, and I want to make him the star of my film, The Man Who Fell to Earth. And that's what happened. And these images, for anyone who's seen it, are familiar, because that was an image you saw in The Man Who Fell to Earth.
So similar, some of the imagery he created. Yeah. So similar, with the desert background and the big limo.
Exactly. Well, that's what Nick did. He borrowed it. That's it.
Yeah, and he fully acknowledged it.
Oh yeah, he fully acknowledged it. Yeah. No, he was a friend of mine, and he was a great filmmaker, a great British filmmaker. Yeah.
A lot of people think that in The Man Who Fell to Earth it's the same car, but it's not. He was in a Cadillac.
Yeah, it's a different car. Yeah,
Cadillac Fleetwood, and in The Man Who Fell to Earth, it's a what is it?
It's I've forgotten what it was, but it was not a Cadillac. But the point was, it was obviously similar. The driver wasn't
very
Jim.
similar. Yeah,
he'd left, and he had another driver, but it was Bowie's driver driving the car.
Lincoln Continental.
A Lincoln Continental. Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Do you want to show another clip?
Let's have another clip.
Okay, coming out to the right side of the coach again, folks, there's the former home of Dean Martin's very best buddy, Frank Sinatra.
Who also happens to be her stepfather, and Linda Christian. Marbella reports Sean Connery settled the fight. Obviously, Sean hasn't forgotten some of his former James Bond tricks.
Films that I made, forget that I'm 50.
I mean, there's an interesting fact that, as Mark knows and everybody knows, that this film had a huge influence on people around this room, but also on performers at the time, and I was in Los Angeles recently in Santa Monica, and I was just having a meal in the Ivy, and someone tapped me on the shoulder, and it was Bono. And I'm a friend of Bono, I've known him for years, but he's never actually mentioned Cracked Actor to me before. And we were with a friend of his, and he said to me, you know, when I saw Cracked Actor, because he's about 10 years younger than me, Bono, he said that changed things for me. And so many musicians.
For everybody, I mean, really the whole 80s pop scene was influenced by, in fashion, and in, you know, the whole soul thing, even the music, the soul music that Bowie goes into at the end of it, really influenced the 80s pop scene. The way he looked in Cracked Actor and The Man Who Fell to Earth had a big influence as well. And the whole of the 80s pop world would have probably looked and sounded different if it hadn't been for this film, I think, in my opinion.
It's interesting about the young generation. This is an interesting point, that I believe that Bowie really does connect with the young. You know, all those early songs particularly, but also this idea of curiosity and adventure and looking at the world in different ways, being creative, thinking about the possibility you can escape the dullness of your life, because the world out there, it may be scary, and it often is in Bowie's songs, but it's also interesting. It's a place to go. And I think this gap in terms of music between a younger generation and older generation, we've got to remember that the legacy of performers like the blues and soul and all this and jazz, this had a huge impact on Keith and Mick and Bowie and everyone else. And I think, you know, even this next generation, I don't know, do some of you know who Jacob Collier is? Have you heard of Jacob Collier, any of you? Silence. That's, yes, a few yeses. He has been hugely, and he's got fans of the older generation, you know, as well as his. And I think there was a series once called Rock Family Trees, which told you about the connection between the different generations. And I'm going to try to ensure that when we make films about musicians now, that not only do you hear their story, but then the next film you see is a story about all the influences that they had. We need to understand, all of us, that there is a legacy, that there is a story, that you can learn from the past to set up the future. And I think that's a very important lesson, not just in music, but in every way, that there are lessons to be learned from the past.
Let's show one more clip, I think, and this is the other back of the limo clip.
Oh, we're not stopped. Is there anything behind us?
Yes, there's car.
But no.
Ready.
There's an underlying unease here, definitely. I mean, you can feel it in every avenue. It's very calm, and it's a kind of a superficial calmness that they've developed to underplay the fact that that there's a lot of high pressure here, as it's a very big entertainment industry area. And you get this feeling of unease with everybody. The first time that it really came home to me, what a kind of strange fascination it has, is that I came in on the train, on the earthquake. I mean, the earthquake was actually taking place when the train came in. And the hotel that we were in was just tremored every few minutes. I mean, it was just revolting feeling. And ever since then, I've always been very aware of how dubious a position it is to stay here for any length of time.
City to love in a doorway and strangle some screams from the dawn. And isn't it me putting pain in a stranger like a portrait in pleasure, trails on a leash. Well, you see that I'm scared and I'm lonely, so I break up my room, yawn and around to the center of things, where the knowing one says, boys, it's a sweet thing. Boys, it's a sweet thing, sweet thing. If you want it, boys, get it here then. For home, boys, is a cheap thing, cheap thing. Yeah. It's amazing, it even smells like a street. There's a bar at the end where I can meet you and your friends. Someone scrawled on the walls, I smell the blood of the troubadours. Rolled up scandals in other parts. I'm having so much fun with the poisonous people, spreading rumors and lies on stories they make up. Some make you sing, and some make you scream, and one makes you wish that you've never been seen. But there's a shop on the corner selling papier-mâché, selling boiler-boat races, volley match and Cassius Clay. And you want it, boys, get it here then. Scream out loud, it's ready, I want you. Is there anyone out there? Anytime? I'd say a bushful of number ones. Hey, gorgeous, I need you. When it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, I go to pieces. If you want it, boys, get it here then. The sweet way you look, I could not hold up my head. I gave all I had in another bed, another floor, another car, in a sailor like a church with a orange on. Guess the beat was moving down one more time. Two by my side, a tripping back. Buy some drugs and watch your band. Jump in the river, holding hands.
Well, that's again to do with, I mean, the way that he represents the world to you makes you think. I mean, just those words, you really do listen to them. And of course, the cut-ups was just a way of him refreshing his mind, reminding him of things that can happen accidentally and that really give you a charge. So that was the William Burroughs thing that he was so interested in.
We've been winked out to take a quick break for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I think, and then we'll resume again.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
We'll see you soon. We're going to see a couple more clips, and then we're going to talk a bit more, and then there's going to be an audience Q&A. So it's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime chance to ask this man all the burning questions you've wanted to ask him about Cracked Actor. So get thinking of some good questions.
Well, it's been a long time. I saw Ziggy on stage, and it looked like he was dead. It looked like a tribute Like someone else was playing the part?
Oh yes, very much, I think, yes. I get occasional flashes of what he used to be like, but it's... The actual performance is a little more perfunctory, I think, than it ever was before.
So what's happening...
Absolute Ruhe, bitte!
So what's happened since?
Since Ziggy, good Lord. Well, the last time you saw me, or were with me, it was in Los Angeles, wasn't it? One of my... one of the worst periods, I think, in my life, I think. I got into a lot of emotional and spiritual trouble there. And so I decided to split and discover new ways of relating to the music business, per se. I wasn't sure exactly what I was in it for anymore.
Was there a clash between the sort of the materialism, the need to be a rock star, successful, if you like?
Yes, I think very much so. And as I really didn't want to be one myself, I was living more and more in the style of one of my characters who wanted terrific success because they're all messiah figures, most of them. Either light or dark shadowings. And so because I knew, I really felt that the material aspect was something that had to be done in Los Angeles because it's driven into you. It's the food of Los Angeles, Hollywood rather, not Los Angeles. Unfair on Los Angeles. And so I just packed up everything one day and I moved back to Europe again.
So, Alan, were you surprised to see that Bowie had changed so much when you went back to film him, or were you aware that he had moved on?
Well, it was a big change. I mean, there's no question. And he was looking for a new life. And what's important is that the tone of what he was doing, Low and things like that, were also partly to do with where he was. You know, so he was someone who needed a new space to transform himself, and he needed a new partner, and that's where he found or decided that Brian Eno would be the right partner for him.
And was this in Berlin or
it was in Cologne, I think.
Cologne, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was in Cologne.
It looks like Cologne Cathedral.
Yeah.
So I believe we've got another clip coming up.
I hope you don't mind me doing this. There are some balloons behind you, perfect celebratory items.
So what's it for?
Well, a magazine with obviously a substantial budget have bought and given me a camera and a few packs of film. And I've got to record between 50 and 70 working days visually. So it's a Polaroid or two a day. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
I was just thinking, when I saw you, at that time, you were always an aesthete, of course. It was white powder and white milk, I remember, as your diet at that time.
And green and red peppers.
Probably.
That's about all I ate.
Sort of probably the diet of a mugwump.
You saw me in a good
Burroughs.
time. You saw me in a good time, I'll have you know.
You were rehabilitating at that point?
No. I was just starting my great voyage.
It's so lovely to see him over this period. We remained friends over a long period of time, and that was taken in 1997, so that was 25 years after we had made that film. And he was very happy then. You can see it on his face. If you look at him in Cologne, Low was the album, and Low was how he was feeling in a funny kind of way. But when he met Iman, it changed his life, and he felt at home in New York where he was living. He could walk down the streets and nobody bothered, as I was saying to Hannah, no one bothers in New York to stop you.
No, they're blasé, aren't they?
Yeah.
When you met Bowie in years after you'd made Cracked Actor, did he reminisce about it? What were his thoughts about it? Did he have any opinion of it or say anything to you?
I think he always felt that but he hadn't quite realized what a difficult period he'd been going through. The film reminded him of what he was experiencing. Yeah. And he saw it again, I remember, I think someone was saying here, Kevin Alan as well they saw it together, and he said, as I said earlier, I don't know how I survived this. So that was a difficult period, but also we've got to remember that early period was an incredibly creative period as well. I mean, it's astonishing when you think about it. Bowie had only, I mean, he was a sort of Anthony Newley fan for a while, and all of that stuff was happening. That when we went to LA, it was 1974, and you've got to remember he'd only been going for a short while. I mean, Ziggy had been going for about 3 years or something, and there was the whole of Los Angeles after him. All these young people had got the message, and they could not wait to see him.
And apparently all the stars were out in LA as well, as we saw Liz Taylor. But she wasn't the only movie star that was there.
No, there were
a lot
lots
of big
movie stars there.
It was the hottest ticket in town. I think even Michael Jackson was supposed to.
I think he came.
And copied a lot of the moonwalking idea and the fedora hat.
The whole visual, the whole way that Bowie presented himself. You know, I think certainly Michael Jackson would have got that message, no question.
Because with all the scenery and the set and everything, it was kind of the start of that big arena production sort of thing, wasn't it? It hadn't really been done before in that way.
Very rarely, no. I mean, clearly what was so extraordinary is that every scene, every setting in the Diamond Dogs tour was different. Every single, it wasn't like, yeah, here we go again. It was always different. He was always reinventing and reimagining this character that he had created. And so it was a sort of, I think that's why when you watch this and you see those clips, each one gives you another picture, which is so unusual.
He's kind of acting out different facets of the characters in visual form on
he
the
is.
thing.
And then there's that famous line when he says, "I'm glad I'm me now. I'm glad I'm me now."
And he wasn't actually him, was he, at all? And I think you say later on, I believe you now, I didn't believe you in 1974.
Yes, that's true. And now, that point you just saw, where he becomes himself again, and actually the rest of the career is mainly, till the end, a reimagining and recreation of his past, and the combination of Low and Station to Station and the early work, yeah.
Shall we see another clip?
Yes.
More than anything else, I saw that a lot of my songs were very illustrative and picturesque, and I felt there were other ways of performing them on stage. I was never very confident of my voice, you see, as a singer, so I thought rather than just sing them, which would probably bore the pants off everybody, I'd like to kind of portray the songs rather than just sing them. That's really how it started, wanting to portray the material I was writing. I always found that my material, I felt it was more through three-dimensional. I wanted to give it dimension. I wanted to give it some other dimension other than that of just being a song. What time is it?
It's 8 o'clock on the nose.
Right. Does anybody say how long I've got?
They said 5 minutes, 10 minutes ago.
Did they? It's a 8:15 start.
Time is waiting in the wings. He speaks of senseless things. His script is you and me. Boy, time, he flexes like a whore, falls wanking to the floor. His trick is you and me. Boy, time and quaaludes and red wine, demorning billy dolls, and other friends of mine. and vain, and many other last names. Oh, I looked at my watch, says 9:25. Think, oh God, I'm still alive. We should have been on by now. We should be on by now.
I'm leaving.
No. You, not a victim. You just scream with boredom. You are not evicting time.
Once again, you know, the mood changes. I mean, those lyrics, they're unbelievable. Every time you listen to them again, they're just incredible. I mean, who's ever written like that, you know?
Well, the incredible thing about Bowie is that he was a comprehensive school boy who didn't really have any qualifications or anything. He learned, he taught himself, he educated himself.
Completely. Yeah.
And he educated us by passing over his information through his songs, through things like this, through these vignettes and everything, and through mentions in his lyrics and interviews.
No, absolutely. Education, education, education. That's it. I mean, this is important. For me, the film is very much about Bowie's relationship with, well, all of you when you were younger. You know, this is the man who captured the imagination of so many. And when he had just, in the week when he died, I was in South America, and I was there with Hanif Qureshi and with Dylan Jones, all of whom were obviously fans of Bowie. And the young people in South America really knew who he was and really had a strong feeling about him. So it's the way he connected with that generation is so important.
Should we show another clip?
Yes.
You saw for a long period, or for certainly over the last couple of years, a lot of kids sort of aping you almost, or looking very like you, so that they would dress up and put things on very similar to you. How did you feel about it?
Well, a lot of it came out starting off like that, but over the last year or so it's changing, and in as much that they're finding out things maybe nothing to do with me, but the idea of finding another character within themselves. I mean, if I've been at all responsible for people finding more characters in themselves than they originally thought they had, then I'm pleased, because that's something I feel very strongly about, that one isn't totally what one has been conditioned to think one is. That there are many facets of the personality which a lot of us have trouble finding, and some of us do find too quickly.
Again, there you are. We're all trying to find out who we are while finding what characters. Don't just stick where you are, explore. And of course he did all that, and then he went through a troubling time, and then he went on another journey. And then finally, you know, in the last 20 years of his life, less than that, you know, even, but about that, he found family and home, and he, you know, actually I think that the adventure had stopped. He was on a journey then, a different kind of journey, enjoying his family and Iman and his daughter and Duncan and all of that.
But that was very pertinent, all that business about finding other characters within yourself and expressing yourself is kind of what we're hearing everything about now, isn't it? With the identity politics and all of that. And I think it inspired me, and I think it probably inspired everybody in here to perhaps go and do, you know, if you wanted to be an artist or a photographer or a filmmaker or a writer, I think Bowie, by saying you can be who you want and do what you want.
He absolutely did.
Gave us permission to do that.
Yeah, he gave you permission to search for the person you wanted to be. And I've always thought there's a line that I've always believed in. I think early life is a playground. You have to explore. And talking about creativity, people often say, I said the two words that are important to me are curiosity and creativity. And they're more and more important in this world. We can think out of the box. We can find new ideas, new ways forward. And this is the adventure that this next generation are going to have to go on. And I wanted to write a book called Failing to Succeed. In other words, there's a contradiction there. If you don't try things out, if you don't explore and experiment, you won't succeed. And if you can talk to any artist, any writer, any musician, anyone who's got there, they've always tried things out and then discovered the way forward. That's not to be reckless, but it's to explore. And that's incredibly important, and that's what Bowie is all about, too.
So how did the experience with him change you?
Well, I think, of all the... I've done many films, and I've, been in the creative industries all my life, and that was one of the most important experiences I've ever had working with Bowie. And I've been incredibly lucky because I've met and become friends with so many people, Orson Welles and Mel Brooks and, Bono and all those sort of people, lots of writers, as well, lots of women. I've just been incredibly lucky. That's all I see. And Bowie is certainly an absolute point in my life that made a huge difference. Yeah.
I've got another question about the creation of the film as well. Making documentary films, there's kind of maybe two methodologies, right? You have an agenda when it's even before you start filming. There's a story you want to tell, and then the other thing can happen is the narrative reveals itself in the editing process, right? Could you say if it was one particularly or the other?
The thing is that you start off with an idea. The most important thing in relation to these people you make films with is trust. They need to trust you. And with Bowie, that was it. He said, I trust you, go ahead. So he didn't resist. And I think that's been the reason why over the last 50 years, I've been able to befriend many, many artists and writers and musicians, because they've trusted me, and I've shared that experience with them. I said, this is our experience, and you've got to take on the responsibility. Quite often in these documentaries, you're telling their life stories. You have a responsibility to them to do it, but also to be truthful, not to be afraid to ask questions which are difficult to answer, because they get revelations from that. They discovered, just like Bowie discovered that.
Did you, when you were making Cracked Actor, did you have any kind of inkling or feeling or intuition about what it would become in future? Because, it's 50 years later, it still resonates, it's still incredible, it's become this mythical kind of film. Was there any sense that was going to happen, or did you think it would just come and go and be forgotten about?
I was a sort of working director. I did that film, and as you say in the book, it didn't get good reviews at the beginning at all. No. And people then had to change their minds as it went through. But, Rolling Stone, as you said it was the greatest music documentary ever made. And that's been concurred on by many people since.
Absolutely.
And on its 50th anniversary, even the Daily Mail managed to say that and do a kind of big spread about it. Yes, indeed, the Daily Mail.
It's certainly the best Bowie documentary ever made.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think everyone here would agree, wouldn't you? Are we going to have another clip?
Yeah, let's have another clip.
Let's have another clip.
Do you know that feeling you get in a car when somebody's accelerating very, very fast and you're not driving? And you get that thing in your chest when you're being forced backwards and you think, ooh, and you're not sure whether you like it or not. It's that kind of feeling. That's what success was like. The first thrust of being totally unknown to being what seemed to be very quickly known. It was very frightening for me. and coping with it was something that I tried to do. And that's what happened. That was me coping. Some of those albums were me coping. Taking it all very seriously, I was.
Wasn't it rather a dangerous thing to do, to play the roles?
Well, I didn't know. I mean, when you're that mixed up, and I've been mixed up, man. I mean, really, it was, one doesn't know. One half of me is putting a concept forward, and the other half is trying to sort out my own emotions. And a lot of my space creations are, in fact, facets of me, I have now since discovered. But I wouldn't even admit that to myself at the time. That I would put everything, just make everything a little kind of upfront personification of how I felt about things. Ziggy would be something, and it would relate to me now, I find. And Major Tom in Space Oddity was something. Lad Insane. They're all facets of me. And I wasn't really, I got lost at one point. I couldn't decide whether I was writing characters or whether the characters were writing me, or whether we were all one and the same.
Yeah, I mean, each moment is a revelation, even when you've seen it as many times as I've seen it. But there was someone talking in the background during that, and that was Coco, Corinne Schwab, sort of busy getting on with stuff, not really paying much attention to what we were saying in the corner of the room.
Was Coco around all the time while you were interviewing Bowie?
No.
Really?
She wasn't, no. That was one of the few occasions when she was. That sort of looks like it was really early in the day, because quite a lot of our meetings were at 2 in the morning or something, you know, and she was in bed.
She was in the car in the desert in the flying.
Oh yes, that's Coco with the when in the sequence in the car, it's her sitting in the car.
It's interesting you say that she wasn't there all the time, because the perception we have, it was that she was always hovering there to sort of keep everything
Well,
going.
she may have been hovering, but Bowie was ready just to be there with me at the most of the time, you know, and so yeah, she was protecting him, to be honest with you.
Right. And how did you know when, because you said some of it was at night, in the middle of the night in cars. Were you on standby? Did somebody phone you? Did Coco phone you, or did Freese phone you to say David's ready? Or
well, no, at the end of shows, or because most of it was at night, because during the day he was resting from the show, or we were in the car traveling to the next location, and I would be with him. But in fact, it was just at the end of the night I'd say, "Can we talk to David?" You know, whatever, and then we'd hang out, wait. Maybe a couple of hours, and usually it was yes, but quite often he was too tired. But by and large, we were with him for over 3 weeks, you know, so there was quite a lot of time to get in there.
Right, yeah, so you were kind of grabbing it when you could, basically.
Yeah,
sort of
exactly.
thing. Yeah. And it's amazing that with that ad hoc approach, you've got such a brilliant film, you know?
Yeah. He knew where we were going and what I wanted to do. And I mean, you can see how, well, he's both fragile, but also ready to, it's as if I was a shrink and he was telling me all about it. That's what I feel about that conversation as I now look.
He probably needed a lot of those conversations at that time.
Yeah, I think that's right.
With you to clarify in his own mind.
That's exactly right. I think he was learning things about himself. He says it himself.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but
you can see that happening on the screen.
Yes,
he's thinking about these things.
It was, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's have another clip. Okay.
Let's see some kids.
He's from his own universe.
What universe is that?
Bowie universe.
Are you into the Bowie universe?
He's the center. I was drawn to it.
How were you drawn to it?
I'm from Phoenix, and I just came.
And I never get bored.
You know, like
really.
stones,
I never get bored because I can always change.
Stones get tired.
I'll draw a different picture this way or that way.
Stones get
Don't you know you're driving your drivers insane? Oh, you pretty things. Don't you know you're driving your drivers insane? Let me make it plain. Gotta make
like people who are AC/DC. You know what I mean?
No, I'm not saying Bowie's the best. Like,
I guess I'm living my fantasy.
What's your fantasy?
Bowie. He represents it all to me. Excitement, space. See, I'm just the space cadet. He's the commander.
We have a real live space cadet with us on stage, ladies and gentlemen. So it's incredible for us here in the UK to actually... how many times do you think we have all watched this lady on stage saying her piece? I mean, personally for me, probably hundreds, you know.
And that's the thing. I didn't see it in America till the 80s. I had no idea. Oh, he's always helped me with microphones. I didn't see it until the 80s in America because it wasn't shown in America. So I saw it on like a compilation of like the 25 years of Rolling Stone. They had a little bit with Bowie and then they showed me and I started getting phone calls. I nearly fell over because I had no idea.
But like all of us, it's changed your life, hasn't it?
It has made my life. I was telling Alan, I just wrote a book, and after interviewing me, I was sure of one thing, that the rest of my life would be in music and with microphones. And here we are, 50 years later, because of Bowie, I felt, because of Alan, actually, I felt confident because he chose me. And I can tell you a lot of my friends did not like that he chose me, as you can imagine. And I just felt so confident. And then, you know, I felt like I can do this for a living. I can probably go into the music business. I mean, he gave me so much, so much.
Well, that line, I'm just a space cadet, he's the commander. I'd like to imagine how many times that's been repeated. Millions, I'd say, probably of times.
So we've got 15 minutes for questions from the audience. Anybody that's got anything they'd like to ask?
Have they got microphones to give people?
I believe so. Yeah, here's over here.
Well, you might need it.
So who's got a question for Alan or anybody? Great.
Yeah, I've got a question for Alan. First of all, absolutely brilliant documentary, like most people in this room. I've watched it numerous times, but just one question I would like to ask. Obviously, during the making of that, David was very much into a very strong cocaine habit. In your opinion, what did that add to the film, or did it detract from it in any way?
I think many people could have watched that film and had no idea about it. It was never, I think I was saying to Mark, we never discussed it, Bowie and I, at the time. Obviously later we did, and he acknowledged that that was going on, but I was aware of it. The only real moment in the film where you can sense, if you've been told that this is that moment in the back of the car when he's worried that he might be being followed by a police car, and where he does that big sniff, and that's the only clue. So no, there was no other evidence. And when I saw him, you know, cocaine doesn't, you know, it's something which he was experiencing, and he needed that to get through this period. He clearly needed that, and once he got out of it, he, as he said, you know, I don't know how I survived it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Chris?
Thanks, Alan. That's a fabulous film that's obviously stood the test of time. Still looks beautiful to this day. This is a bit of a tragic technical question, but I'm assuming you were shooting in Super 16, extremely challenging in terms of lighting. When you come to the concert footage, you know, you spent a heap of money on the Hunger City set, but the place is like darkness, you can barely see anything behind it. Was it as unlit in real life as it looks on film?
In a way it was, in the sense that the focus was on the character, on Bowie, except towards the end when there were, you know, like there were sets like the time sequence or others. Other times it was mainly, there weren't lots of people on stage and lots of background shots or images, which today, it was a very different feel. Also remember, one of the things about shooting on 16mm was their 10-minute reels. Today, people on video just shoot and you just carry on for hours on end, you know, or on whatever. But in those days, it was that. And when you're trying to capture a live show, so you needed a number of cameras there. So we would have essentially 3 cameras available, certainly, to shoot those scenes, or 4, yeah. That's how it was done. And so in the cutting room, and remember, my narrative for the film was all going to be about these characters he'd created in the songs. So my focus was very much on him, as much as on more than on spectacle in the normal way. I was using, as you can see, the streets of LA, the crowds outside, the kids, that they were my additional elements, not, it wasn't just about a show at Anaheim, it was about the story of Bowie and these characters.
Thank you. I would like to know how did David manage to be chosen to be the second singers to sing in the broadcast for Black people? I mean, the train, the soul, and so how did you manage to be invited and to be the second so white artist to be invited in such a show?
On Soul Train.
Yeah, on Soul Train. Well, I think he was looking for a new world, and he was a big fan of soul. He had not really explored it before, and obviously soul belongs to Black people, and I think that became a big part of his life after that point.
Well, he'd been a teenage kind of mod who was very into soul, apparently,
Yeah.
and R&B, and apparently in Cracked Actor days, he had a trunk with him with a lot of soul records from the 60s that he was
That's right,
carrying
I heard
around.
that too, yes, that's absolutely right. So that was part of, that's the next story, you know, which is the ending of this film, but the beginning of another moment. But it's always been important to him. And actually, whether it's him or the Rolling Stones or anything, they would not be there without soul and you know, all of that. You know.
So it was genuine. I mean, Bowie wasn't latching on to any kind of trend. He was genuinely knowledgeable and interested in soul music. Yeah.
He was also the biggest Little Richard fan.
Absolutely. He wanted to be Little Richard's
He
saxophone
wanted to be.
player.
And remember, all the music that we hear, you know, whether it's rap or anything else, it's still, the blues and soul are still the origination of all this.
They're in there somewhere.
Yeah.
We're being asked to finish up, actually. Any final thoughts, Alan, you want to leave us with?
Just to say, it's an incredible legacy for Bowie. I think he'd be really delighted to see how much he's affected and impacted the lives of so many people. So this reminds me of just how special he was and will continue to be for, I hope, for decades to come, long after I'm gone. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Honolulu, for being here as well. And Alan, once again, from me personally and from all of us. You know, to be able to talk to you in real life is, you know, it's a privilege. And, you know, we all adore your film.
Thank you so much.
That was a very special moment making Cracked Actor. Mr. Yentob, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoy your. The rest. Are you here for the few days here?
Yes, all the days here.
Oh, you can make a proper film then.